welcome to the new Sticks and Bricks of Orange Belly Express. Just thought I'd give you a view of our beautiful outside. This is where Orange Belly now resides and will probably be continued to be built out. We have decided at this point to keep Orange Belly Express, finish building it out, and take it on some trips as we can. It'll also make a really good emergency vehicle just in case Fortune decides to make us homeless again. Who knows? But for any of us, or any of you that have followed our journey at all on Instagram or Facebook, you know that we were building this out so that we could become full-time nomads. But before we could finish, we ended up homeless, no fault of our own. Just a landlord who wanted to sell the house for considerably more than it was worth and ended up having to re-rent it anyways. But we ended up living in a old Jayco in the middle of farmland for a few months throughout the winter. And we learned a lot of valuable lessons in that. And we learned we liked Sticks and Bricks and we're staying in it.
Orange Belly Express came about, the name, it took a long time. I can't go get him because he's in the bedroom. But Orange Belly Express is because of a giant stuffed orange-bellied frog I grew up with. My dad had one and I had one, and they were called the boys. My dad was autistic. I'm autistic. And we had very weird communication styles in our family. And the boys were my brothers, so to speak. And we would like leave each other notes like, hope you have a good day, love you kind of thing, because we had a hard time expressing that to one another. And it was this interesting dynamic that our family had. But the family basically, the boys went with us on camping trips, which I will try to plug some photos in here, wherever they end up. We played cards and tents, and you'll see those here too, probably. The boys were just the mascots of the family. And at one point in my life, when I was younger, I started getting into art and stuff like that, and I wanted to make a t-shirt company, and I still do. In fact, I will be selling some of my art on shirts here in the next, it might be up by the time this video is up, so if you look in the description below, there might be links to a store. There will be t-shirts and stuff in the below. And it'll be parody shirts featuring some of our favorite internet nomads and grifters. But I love doing parody art and things like that. Procreate is one of my favorite things I create on the iPad, and I hand paint, and I also do regular graphic design for small companies and things like that. So moving into video is a different animal. I'm not good at this, and I'm very uncomfortable on camera, if you can't tell, but it is what it is. I'll get used to it eventually, I suppose. Went off on a tangent there that I probably shouldn't have. Orange Belly Express, though, was named because I wanted a t-shirt company. So as a joke, I bought those printable iron-on things that you can do, and I drew some art that had the frogs in it. And then I printed them out, and I made t-shirts for my dad as a joke for like his birthday and Christmas. And it was called Orange Belly Wear. And he loved them. He wore them for years. And I've decided to bring Orange Belly Wear back. My dad, I lost him in 2009. And it changed me, and it changed my life. He was my best friend, and we had a very hard upbringing. He was not a good dad for many years, but when he got older, he realized what had happened, and by that time, I was married and moved out of the house and all that, and he realized that he had really screwed some stuff up, and he made amends with me, and we became really good friends. And I feel like just as I got to know my dad and have him as my best friend, he was taken from me. Orange Belly Express, though, came out of the fact that my dad we did van life every summer. He had a converted, we had 3 different vans that we did it in, but over the years, but every summer he would save up all year long. And every summer we would go on some kind of a trip somewhere. My favorite one was we drove from Pennsylvania. We lived in Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania, which is like it's about 6 miles from Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. And I grew up with my grandparents. I lived with my grandparents most of the time. And that's in Enola, which is like directly across the river from Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. We drove all the way from Mechanicsburg all the way out to the Grand Canyon and back in a van. We had, he had built a bed in the back. We had a little mini fridge. It looked like what you would think of as a normal van life van. And my mom and dad slept in the back. And when I was smaller, they put a board across the 2 seats in the front of the van and a pad on top of it. And I slept on that. And then as I got older and taller and longer and couldn't fit in that anymore, we would stay at some campgrounds, and I had my own tent, like right outside the van. And back then it was safe to do that kind of thing. So, and a couple times when it was pouring out rain, I slept on the floor of the van inside with them. But we traveled for months in that van. We went so many places. He would take like a week and we would go down to Chesapeake, Virginia. And then later on, he'd take another week and we'd go up to Vermont. Or I've been all over the United States, and it's all because of van life. So it's kind of a part of my history, and I was really excited to get into it. And who's to say I don't? You know, if we don't sell the bus, which we have a number of people who are like very interested, but they don't have quite enough money, and we're not going to lower it anymore because we have a lot in it already. And we would rather just keep it and keep building on it and just keep it for trips for us than to lose a ton of money on it. We've got over a kilowatt of solar on it. We have enough battery in it now that we can run our CPAPs, our medical stuff, all that kind of stuff on it. We have all the parts. We just need to finish building it. And it runs really good. So we'll see. If it sells, great. If it doesn't, is what it is. We'll keep it. And Orange Belly Express might still be a part-time van lifer thing. Who knows? But I'll tell you one thing that you learn really quickly living in a camper is I think of people like Destination Overroad, Scott and Terry. I give them kudos for being able to exist in that truck camper together as long as they did. I don't think my husband and I would have made it. You have to really like each other to live that close quarters. And I love my husband and we love each other a lot. But even the camper that we had, which was small, it was a 24-foot Jayco, older Jayco, no slides, nothing, because I don't like slides. But we had our dog, who's a pretty big boy. He's a Cane Corso mix. And we had him and me in a queen bed with the dog. Does not work. It just doesn't work. He ended up sleeping out in his van most days. Even during the cold spell, he slept in his van because he could heat it pretty easily. He stayed warm with an electric blanket. We ran a line out to him. The people that we were staying with on their farmland, thankfully, they had a 30 amp service already out to their barn area, but it had gotten damaged. So the first month we were there, we ran off a generator, and without a generator when we didn't need it. We ran off battery stuff like half the time, and then generator half the time. But then we managed to get 30 amp in. So we were blessed. Even in that, we had 30 amp, and unless a storm came through and knocked everybody's power out, we had the generator backup when that happened, and it did happen once. So it was doable, but it's a lot of work. It's so much work. And if you're disabled or you're older, and you're thinking about becoming a nomad, please take that into consideration, because it's not like you can get up in the morning, you know, and every morning have your same little routine where you make dinner or you make breakfast, you brush your teeth. In my case, you do your dentures, you know, you do whatever, you go out, you sit, you read the whatever. No, first thing you got to do when you get up in the morning is make sure you have electricity, make sure you have water, make sure you make sure your electricity stayed on overnight and it didn't ruin all your food. Make sure there's just so many things that can go wrong and often do, that people who don't have a financial cushion and are nomads, you're just asking for it. You know, we had a fridge. It came with a really small little fridge, which my husband still has down in the man cave. It came with just a small little, what do you call it, dorm fridge. We ended up doing what Eric, Nomadic Fanatic, did. We actually went and got almost the exact same refrigerator. After I told him, hey, you know, this is an option. You can do this, and it's just, you know, it's a regular fridge. It's, you know, but it's a good option. Other nomads have done it, and he went and did it in the Tioga. He ended up doing the exact same thing in the camper because, one, we were plugged into 30 amps, so we could run a residential fridge. So we ended up getting a small residential fridge, and it fit perfectly. And so we had a good size refrigerator, thank God. And even with the generator, it ran it no problem, you know, when it was necessary. But people do not take into account how much physical work it really is. Even picking up a 30-pound propane tank with my back issues was a problem. And I had to do it multiple times. And if you don't know what you're doing, you can cause a propane leak easily. There's all different kinds of things you can do. It's a whole big learning curve if you're going to use a camper. A lot of people think, oh, well, I can do nomad life, but I'll just get a camper. A camper will be easier than if I get a van. No, it's not. It's more work. You've got gray tanks and black tanks, and you know, you got to keep your water, and you have to make sure it doesn't freeze. And we were blessed, again, that the camper we had was an older Jayco. All of our plumbing and our water tanks were inside the camper. So as long as we kept the camper inside above freezing, and we kept our doors open, I kept the bathroom door open. I even popped up, because our main water tank was underneath the sofa. I would pop the cover off. There was a cover that goes on the front of the jackknife. I would pop that off so that he could get to it more easily. And it did a really good job of it. But if your camper is not just like that, the chances of having a broken pipe or something like that, you better know how to fix it yourself. Because you can't just call mobile RV repair in the middle of somewhere. And if you do, you better have the money to pay them. The cheapest mobile repair person we had was $175 just to come out and look at the issue. We were going to see if we could just have the 3 vents replaced in the camper. And he was asking over $500 we already had the vents. He wanted over $500 just to take out the Dicor, pop them back in and reseal them and get up on the roof. Because he wanted $175 just to show up, plus an hourly. So it's not cheap. Bob Wells says that, you know, oh, well, you can just live in a little minivan, you can do this, and this. Right. But you know what keeps us sane? This keeps us sane when you're disabled. This kind of thing. Your hobbies, your things that you love to do. I have a lot of art supplies. This is what keeps me sane. This is what keeps my mental health okay. If you're perfectly fine sitting on your iPad all day and just doing puzzles and puzzle books, you know, or just hiking and biking 24/7, okay, you might be one of the limited people. But most people that I know, if it's a dreary day, boy, I can't speak today. If it's a dreary, rainy day, are you really going to sit and read for 24 hours? I mean, I'm sure you could, but even that gets to be a bit much. Most of us need our creative outlets. And some people have managed, mostly people I've seen that are in like larger schoolies, have the room and the space to actually do something with their creative outlets and have that room. If something happened, I've thought about this, if something happened to my husband and I can't afford to live anywhere else, I will live in the bus. It will not be easy. I will probably end up living with family and just living in the bus and living out of the bus. But I don't know. I would prefer to be able to go into a 55 or older community or something like that where there's sticks and bricks, there's activity, and you have space. It's just it's a preference now.
Here's a closer look of what we're going to be offering. T-shirts, tote bags, mugs, and stickers. Links are below. Please help support your local parody artist. There will be more coming out. I am going to be answering some questions about Tater and the things that happened, and I will be starting all the video that I've taken so far through the build, and we will start showing you what's going on with Orange Billy Express.